dumb shit that doesn't have good stories with it, like the Great Hickey of '07. And that time I agreed to a foursome with 2 people I didn't have sex with ever. Like, had agreed not to, but we were like, yeah, we can be in a foursome. It's great math. Those aren't very interesting stories. What I will say, like, honestly, probably it seemed like a good idea at the time of my life that is the largest, that I feel like I could just say this and then just drop the mic and walk off stage, is losing my virginity to a gay man. Ow! Which actually didn't go that bad itself. His name is Ian. We're still very close. He's one of the most adorable and endearing human beings on the face of the planet. We were both poetry majors, actually, in college. That gets you laid with all the wrong people. But in this particular case, we met while tabling for Bisexuality Awareness Day, which should have been a hint. I didn't know how, like, queer I was. He was pretty clear that he was out and had already done like a little bit of cruising and experimentation. We fell in love. He was a Quaker and totally adorable, like very soft-spoken. The worst thing he ever said to me in terms of like speaking in anger, like he said a lot of like fucked up shit during the breakup, but like in anger, speaking in anger, the worst thing he ever said was, "I strongly suggest you stop doing that." And we fell in brain love, and we were very young, and so we were convinced that once you're in brain love with somebody, you're supposed to mash parts. Not always the case, it turns out. Sometimes that's disastrous. And what was great was like some gay men or some gay people, queer people, like when they're with somebody of the opposite sex, they can't feel aroused at all. Ian could feel aroused, but then he felt weird about it. So it was kind of like, I think Joey Kimo described it the way Ian described it earlier, just a little bit more concisely. He said, it's like nails on a chalkboard, except both the nails and the chalkboard are your dick. It was real classy. But we were together for a year, and we kept trying, because we both had libidos that just shouldn't have been pointed at each other. And during the winter break of our relationship, like of the year that we were in college together, I decided that I was going to come up and meet his parents on a visit to Marion, Massachusetts, which is right by the Cape. And this is in January. That's 2 facts you need. And Ian's dad, eventually when we were breaking up, looked at him and was like, you know, I don't know if you should be dating an Eastern European socialist, which was the closest he could get to say Jew. You should not be dating a Jewish girl. But like, his dad was from the South and had moved north because he wanted his kids to not be racist, but he wasn't quite there himself yet, so we had all these awful fights. And his mom was like thrilled to have another woman in the house, but was also terrified of her son actually sleeping with somebody. So Ian, the Quaker, had promised his parents that we would not fuck while we were in his house, which he thought was brilliant because we weren't going to. We were going to fuck outside. And this is where the brilliant sex on the beach idea came in. I was there for 4 days. On the second night, we finally were like, nope, we can't stand it. You're the person I'm supposed to be mashing parts with. We're gonna go do this. And he grabbed his sleeping bag, and we got in his truck, and we went to the beach. Now here's what's amazing about that. There was actually snow on the beach. There was snow on the beach. So we couldn't put the blanket down on the beach because it would get wet and then we'd get cold. Because we weren't already freezing our fucking genitals off as it was. So we walked a little bit into the woods and we found this like uneven rock thing and he laid the blanket down and then we both stood there and realized that one of the things we were gonna have to do at this point is get some amount of naked. And it was like 15 degrees outside. Like I was pretty sure like I was numb. So it was like, well, do you need physical sensation for a sexual response? Not necessary. Who knows, right? But so I get to a point where I am like ass naked, except now I've put my down coat sort of back on top of it. And I'm like sitting on this blanket, freezing. My vagina could have frozen shut in that moment. I would not have been surprised. And there's Ian standing above me, and I'm like, we're gonna do this, you know. And he's, this adorable, soft-spoken Quaker guy who's just standing there like, he like starts to take his pants off, and he's like, I mean, near New York City, so like my calves freezing. The rest of me, okay, fine. That's a little cool. And the route that he decides to take with this is he's like, so he had done like a little bit of cruising and had spent a little bit of time in like gay community, and this thing came out of Ian in this moment where he just was like, no, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna do this. And he got like super like filthy mouthed and objectifying and stuff. And I was like a lesbian who didn't know she was a lesbian at the time. So I was like, that's very abrupt and violent. I don't know what to do with myself. so like, Ian's very like, oh my God. But I'm trying to remember the things that he said. I'm also a terrible dirty talker, so this is gonna be a fun thing to say out loud on stage. I'm trying to think of the things. It was something like, just let me see it, in reference to my vagina, which I was like, how's that gonna help? Let's not, it seems ineffective. And so we sort of end up in this like, really involved, like he kind of gets on top of me, but in this like, manly, violent, sex thing. And I'm like, freezing cold, totally confused by the transformation of human that I'm dealing with. And like he's like trying to figure out by like being this like rude person how to get hard enough to put a condom on. Somehow he manages that. Which I mean, I feel like 19-year-olds could usually get hard in like the freezing cold. It's just the fact that like he was gay and there were a host of problems with this scenario. But so we managed to start having sex, and my head starts hitting the rock, like hard. And I'm like, no, but Ian, wait, like this really hurts. Like, ow, ow. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, no, ow. And like, didn't even know the term safe word yet, guys. That's how much of a newbie I was. So like, this occurs for like maybe 40 seconds. That's, who knows how long it was, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. It was just, and then all of a sudden I was like, I may get concussed if I allow this to continue. So I yell at him until he gets off me, and then he sits there sad, and like dejected, and I'm like, what? I mean, can we just, this isn't working. And he was like, he said the saddest thing that I've ever heard, ever. Maybe seconded by a few very contrived things. He said, I just wish I could go somewhere to fuck where nobody cares about anybody. And I was like, what am I doing? It's terrible. And so, I was like, that's a horrible sentence. And he was like, I guess. And so, I was like, no, this is terrible, we're going. And like I like put my pants back on, he puts his pants back on. I'm pretty sure we left the blanket there. Just didn't want to take it back with us. It was like the blanket of defeat. And as on the way back, he's like, do you want to get dinner? And I was like, sure. And then we sat there in the diner being like, I was like, why do we, and he explained to me then, I can't have sex with you in the house because I promised my mom that I wouldn't, and I'm a good Quaker. I'm like, great, this is idiotic. And then we sat there for a long time and decided that we weren't going to fuck in the bathroom. And so much of that relationship wasn't, it seemed like a good idea at the time. In the breakup process, what I'll leave you with that is that we actually watched all of Angels in America together. The whole thing. Beginning to end in one day, and broke up 3 times. But yeah, so it turns out, sex outside, these are the things I learned, because I've since figured out how to do it with some satisfaction. Enough cushioning, enough cover for warmth, and at least some lube, ladies and gentlemen. That's what should be in your little bin. Thank you very much.